You mentioned that carb backloading was the reason you're able to maintain low body fat. So what is carb backloading and how is it possible to eat pizza, cookies, and all of that other shit, yet still add muscle and still improve fat loss? Because that shit just doesn't make sense.
Well, a lot of people are familiar with intermittent fasting these days, how that works. Well, carb backloading essentially takes a lot of that science and it adds fuel to the flame. It's for guys who really want to break through old plateaus, build more muscle, and actually improve metabolism, even, yes, when they eat pizza and ice cream and donuts and all these things after training. So with carb backloading, you're essentially avoiding insulin spikes and carbohydrates during that first half of your day. And for this to really be effective, you need to train later in the day so you can take advantage of pretty well every metabolic state and energy system at its most advantageous position. We're really creating the perfect anabolic sweet spot to fuel muscle growth while fat cells are at their most dormant. So the chances of storing fat are little to none. Insulin spikes at this time after you train later in the day can be incredibly beneficial to ramp up metabolism even more while fueling recovery, supporting muscle building. And when we carb backload right, we can use insulin for its anabolic benefits rather than what it's normally known for, getting people fat. And that's really the focus with carb backloading and the stacked diet. Not just to get guys leaner by starving themselves, which always ends badly, but actually getting the benefits of getting these hormonal responses working in our favor. It's not just about losing weight. It's about getting your body to actually release fat stores while getting more nutrients into the muscles, timing this all in the right way. There's some really solid cellular biology that's really only become well known to the public in the last 15, 20 years that old school or traditional dieting just hasn't caught up to, and most diets still get it wrong, backwards. They can't last. They don't last because they can't last. But we can take advantage of these things. We know what to do. And that's what I do with carb backloading for my clients, the stacked diet method, because everybody is on this ketogenic diet kick and all these other things, and they can have benefits for a while, and they're okay if you're a yogi or you're an endurance athlete. But if you're looking for strength, if you're looking for muscle, optimal performance, interested in having a real life, those methods aren't sustainable. They're pretty crappy. Those diets are going to let you down at some point. The body needs a source of glucose at some point, and you preferably want that glucose mainly being stored and used by your muscles. And to really be optimal, that means we need enough muscle to handle the glucose. So more muscle gives us a healthier metabolism, of course, but that allows for more freedom with food. But if you're always on some low carb diet and you're carb depleted constantly, then your muscle glycogen is going to deplete as well. And over time, you get to a point where your body just doesn't want to use them. So I've been a nutritionist for a long time, 15 years. And the last few years specifically, I've had to go back to the drawing board, and I put together a method where we can use carbs very strategically, kind of like a drug, and get the benefits or the effect that we're looking for without the downside. And this can work for pretty much anybody, all kinds of different goals. Actually, that's the thing that got me onto this science of carb backloading in the first place. I think it was 2017. I had a client who was 520 pounds. And after like 6 months, we were just stuck. I think he was at maybe 470 pounds still. It didn't seem to matter what we did, how many calories we cut, how much cardio, how many workouts. He wasn't moving, and I was desperate to help this guy. So we tried this method I stumbled across, carb backloading technique. And basically 1 night per week, we would implement a night after training where he had his thing was pizza. He had an entire extra large pizza to himself after we'd follow this protocol. And what happened blew my mind. It changed my old beliefs forever. He started dropping pounds faster in weeks than he had in months. Long story short, within about 12 more months, this guy was down to 290. He had dropped almost 250 pounds total, which would have never been possible following the traditional old calorie restriction diet method. All just to say, it's not just for guys who want to look like a bodybuilder or gain muscle. And just to summarize this a bit, I basically want to help people get fat adapted into this state where by following a few tricks. And then we use this cheat night carb backloading strategy, and it's like a hormetic stressor. It keeps the body guessing, and it really allows us to make sure the carbohydrates are being used for good, for muscle growth and performance, as opposed to going towards fat storage like they do with most diets. It all centers around insulin, how we use that. Most people following your typical North American lifestyle diet, life is pretty centered around a steady stream of carbohydrates. They're everywhere, and they're usually not good ones, which is making the population fat. Obviously, take a look around. People aren't fat adapted or capable of tapping into fat stores for energy the way that they're supposed to. And it's caused this obesity epidemic. And it's all because when insulin is constant, we become insulin resistant, and it actually flips a switch in fat cells, making them want to store more fatty acids and not be capable of releasing or burning fat. And the traditional way that people eat, it also flips a switch in muscle tissue that makes muscles want to burn the carbohydrates that you just ate, not really letting you tap into your glycogen stores efficiently. Even once you start to deplete your blood sugar levels, you actually just get a glucagon rise, and your liver starts to pump out carbohydrates to fuel those muscles. All just to say, most people are sitting on a huge stockpile of carbs that they're eating every day that their body doesn't even know how to use or can't use properly. So by working in some carb backloading and some other simple methods, short, fast, randomly, that first half of the day, what you're doing by eliminating insulin is you're teaching the body that it can't be dependent on that predictable stream of carbohydrates always, and eliminating all the bad things that come with that. So if you have no insulin whatsoever in the first part of your day, your body is basically forced to release and start burning fat. And obviously there's a ton of advantages to that, and it's one way you can start to lean out without needing to stay in this crazy huge calorie deficit constantly, which is really nice and hugely advantageous to doing things the old way. You're still able to eat throughout the day because you're mostly eating fat. You can stay in this ketogenic-like state, get some of the benefits of ketones, and start to clean up your body on a cellular level. A lot of benefits to that. Cognitive function's way better. You're just sharper overall. It's great for the brain. You just feel better, feel amazing. So there's a lot of benefits to carb backloading and doing things the way that I try to do things with most people. So you can get the best of both worlds. You can get the advantage of still having food, so your body doesn't go into any potential catabolic state, which is bad if you're trying to put on muscle or sustain muscle. And another amazing thing here that is key is, since you've got no insulin and then you're going to work out, the body releases more adrenaline than you would have had if you had carbs before your workout. So it really just comes together like a perfect storm, and you get these insane workouts, more focus, more aggression, more strength, because like I said, when you don't eat carbs before training, you actually get a much bigger spike in adrenaline, and your muscles are more receptive to that adrenaline at the same time. So you can utilize adrenaline in ways that you probably haven't in a while. At the same time, you're not cutting off energy supply. You're tapping into the muscles for a normal workout with an infinite reserve of glycogen that's still there, since this isn't a constant low carb diet. It's very strategic with just one day of not eating carbs. And after that, especially with heavy weight training, strength training, your muscle cells are actually upregulated so they can handle more glucose being transported into them. And that's where the extra insulin from all the cheat carbs you're going to have after training fits in perfectly. So like I said, it's a perfect storm. And again, towards the end of the day, our fat cells are more resistant to insulin. But since you just trained and worked out, you circumvent that, and the insulin signal that would normally be weak, you've actually created an environment where muscles can actually soak up as much sugar as you can basically dump into them, and you can refill glycogen stores. And there's a lot of other metabolic effects going on here that can help crank up metabolism in other ways. But essentially, you can get away with a lot more quote unquote cheat food, junk food, crap food than you normally could have that would normally make you fat. And it's really those big insulin spikes in this specific state that we've induced that help to ramp up your metabolism while also helping you get more glycogen into the muscles much as possible to speed up recovery, repair, that whole process. And you get this amazing effect just by literally changing the food you eat and the timing, holding off carbs until the end of the day after training. And like I said, you can have massive benefits from this, whether you're a guy looking to lose 100 pounds or you're a guy who wants to add a bunch of muscle mass.